Hello, the interwebs. This is, of course, Gamer 1745 here. I'm just checking to see that the interwebs are behaving correctly. Starting a few minutes early here. The iron getting set up. No one else is watching just yet. But if you're watching the VOD, video on demand later, whether on YouTube or, well, I guess you could be YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook. Oh, John's already here. Wow, John has got here. So we will be starting making episodes soon. But just going through getting set up here. We are in May 1939. The war is coming. The war is coming. Well, okay. Well, let's see about. We got a bunch of destroyers there. Get to 41 today, I'm sure. The war may, I don't know. We may get to the breaking out of the war in Europe, but I don't think the U.S. will be involved today. I'm not planning on joining it early. We have two big battleship divisions. Look at production here. Okay, well, we've pumped in a lot more coal mines, but these will also be useful because we're also going to be expanding a lot of industry as well. We're going to get the Yorktown, the Enterprise. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll wing 2 here. Now, this is sort of, John is getting a preview here, and others who watch this. There, I guess, was 2 Langleys. I did not know this. God, there's so much about World War II that I don't know here. There was this Langley, the one that's pictured here, which was the first carrier in the American Armed Forces here. Okay, so max speed 23 kilometers per hour. Okay, so it's about half that, yeah, in knots. And I know one internet sort of historian, and he did say that, well, I was just trying to show what the Germany did other things than the Graf Zeppelin, and that he called them carriers. Well, they were float plane tenders, which we have over there. A carrier, as I would define it, is something that can both launch and recover on its decks aircraft. Not like Germany had several of these float plane tenders that did have a big catapult on them that could launch the aircraft, so that if it's a little bit roughish sea weather, or mainly, I think you would launch it. It's just, instead of having to burn a lot of fuel to gain speed over the, on the water and then finally take off, you launch with a catapult, and so you're already airborne, so you don't burn up too much fuel, and you can take off easier with a heavier load on it. And yeah, that launches. And I asked, pictured, I think it was the I don't know if it was the Tirpitz or the Bismarck. Is this also a carrier? Because it could launch float planes as well. Well, a proper carrier can launch and recover. So the first U.S. carrier that could launch and recover was the Langley. They did, I know the British during World War One, sort of as experimental, put on top of like a gun turret, an aircraft, and launched it. And it was a single-use aircraft, and supposedly, I guess, the pilot was, somehow okay after landing in the water, but the aircraft was single use. And it was sort of like, well, yeah, but the aircraft is like the cost of a single volley of its main guns or something like that, or maybe even just one round of its main guns. So, early aircraft were cheap, relatively speaking. So yeah, they could do that, but that isn't a carrier, where this is a proper carrier. So they had a Langley here that was, and it was definitely around in this time period, and served into the early stages of the war. Often, well, at least one photo I've seen that right from about here, maybe all the way forward or something, or remember the flight deck is just missing. And it was a bunch of aircraft without wings, and you can see the wings sort of stacked up. They're just basically as a transport of aircraft to then get somewhere and then use a crane to get the aircraft off to wherever, and probably as much taking Army Air Corps aircraft to wherever as it was trying to take naval aircraft. So it was no longer operating as an aircraft carrier. It was operating as a transport of aircraft to a different location across the ocean. And then they did a CVL. They named one of the later Independence class light carriers Langley. So there was 2 Langleys in World War II for the U.S. And so we have this one here, which I think once we get some let's see, we should be able to see CAG size 1. So we should be able to stick a CAG on it. A carrier air group is what that stands for. And it is really slow. It'll probably have really bad, operational range and whatnot. So we're not going to add it to any proper fleet. So these have carrier air group size 0, but are very effective as being anti-submarine. We can see in here. Okay, sub detection is there at like 1.75. At least they should be good. What is? Let's see this heavy cruiser. Sub detection 0. So it's more than that heavy cruiser. And we also have the Ranger, which was another early, but not as early. Does it have sub detection? Yeah, 0. So that would be purely relying upon its 2 CAGs. And what is its CAG capacity? Yeah, 2. So it's right now at maximum CAG capacity. And these guys, let's close all these here. These guys, where is it? Where is sub detection? Should be here. You're not seeing sub detection here. Strategic air defense, surface defense. I'm seeing stats here for. Guess not. We should be able to see here for a flying boat surface detection. Maybe it's just surface detection is all that the aircraft has. Sea attack. Well, the surface detection flying boat is 14, where naval bomber is 3, but you can see naval attack is better for the naval bomber. That's why as Germany I like to pair these 2 together, so you have one doing very good surface detection. Now I'm mostly looking for not subs, but subs as well, but ships and one very good going after. Naval aircraft. So we're going to the wait. Let's see what the destroyers here, and these are Wicks class. So these predate the Clemson class. Surface detection 1.9, sub detection. Okay, that's even better. I'm sort of surprising it's better. I would have thought the seaplanes. Hey, Arno. I'm doing very well. Just that, let you know, and everyone who there's just a few people watching now, but there will be a loud, annoying alarm going off in 3.5 hours, meaning that's when this stream will be over by then, and then I will be taking a half-hour break and then streaming live over on Slytherin, a different game. So, okay, so we have these. We're going to want to do two things simultaneously. One, we're going to want to fight the Japanese fleets, keep open supplies to the Philippines, and two, fight the German subs and keep supplies flowing. No, that's going to be Distant Worlds too, and I have sort of a special take looking on all of that. So we're going to want anti-submarine warfare there as well. And well, let's see. How's this Atlantic Squadron? Well, it has no destroyers, so let's give them some destroyers. Don't want to micromanage too much naval, as in sort of want to send out a task force to do a thing and then let it do its thing. We'll put the no, I put the wrong spot on the thing. Yes, playing as humans. You know, I'm just, I guess, the type of person. Oh, I keep clicking the wrong. I'm gonna click the port. Yeah, there we go. No, I should be dumping another one. I guess I did identify most with the humans, so okay, but we're not going to leave Bill Halsey in charge. No, too good. Not even Fletcher. Amanda J. I guess never heard of that person. I like other alien species to be in a game, but I just identify with humans. But I sort of have a special take on it that is particularly why we're going to play as humans. I know people find that sort of boring, but I find it fascinating. We're going to be finding out what Roman history has to do with a 4X space game. Hey, Butter, how you doing? Good to have you here. Getting ready to make the episode start now. All right. One. Okay, so we've got Navy. I don't know that we have enough ICs. I do think we will have things that bump up our percentage of ICs as we get going with things. And good to have Arno over on Facebook. I'm trying the whole Facebook thing out to see if we can grow the audience there. And I know a lot of people, millions of people really like using it. I'm just not used to using it. So I thank Arno for heading up the Facebook department entirely. Okay, so I think we're decent on production at the moment. So let's start making an episode. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 11.2, and of course we're playing as America. I know that seems like the most, easy one to play as, but we're gonna try to do some challenges once we get going. See if we can change history a bit for the better. See what we can do with that. I know a few, and I specifically remember one, but I think there's been a couple of posts. When am I going to get back to Hoi 4, or specifically Hoi 4 Black Ice? Well, soon. So we will be doing that soon. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that live on the weekends or just making the episodes and putting them up. We'll have to see. Industry. Okay, railroad networks advance. Very good. 40. Okay. I think we'll take off on that for the moment. Start looking at like, okay, capital ship engines. You get that. And that could allow me to, excuse me. Okay, we can do railway level 4. That's good. Now let's also do the leader speaks, which will reduce revolt risk and increase ruling party support. Now, we've been trading away a lot of these here. So let's see which ones we have as a possibility. If we were to do like tungsten here in neutral, so let's see about doing tungsten. We'll take 2,000 money down, but we have it. Let's go for 6 months. Investment. Resources, okay, get back some gold, okay, more of the improving for the better railway network, like Cruiser AA Advance. That would be over here. We're going to continue to increase capital ship engines and turbines and all of that good stuff. Ecuador, okay, seaport capabilities advance. Move that over to ship turbines. Okay, capital ship heavy. Link is over here. Carriers, okay, most of those are 41 technologies, and I don't want to do those in 39. Yeah, I think that's just a little too far. But we can come over here and let's see, we can do increase the speed. Now we just deployed a lot of coal and ICs. We now have more ICs. So what we're going to see about doing here is I think we can wait on these upgrades and reinforcements a little while longer. Go with this 26. Let's go with 2 carriers. Carriers will be important. Oh, Arno. I mean, Toy Jet. Sorry, why did I call you? Because you said, hey, oh, Arno. That's why, because I was reading that what you were saying. Hey, Toy Jet. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so we'll do that. 2 carrier, oh, CAGs. We'll need the CAGs, but let's get this. We got some Burger King. Well, very cool. There we go. Aluminum sales has expired. Fine. Core HQ's evidence. Let's come over here and do Air Force HQs. The aluminum surplus. Forward air control. Continue. And brigade HQs. And advanced. Now we'll move that over to naval HQs. Help administer our soon to be great expanse of okay. I guess it just these two. So that has battleships, light cruisers, destroyers, and a carrier air wing. And that has some heavy cruisers as well. So what I think I want to do here is, because I want to balance these two forces out. Let's move to heavy cruisers over there. Now, I think we're going to start putting together a cruiser division with all of this stuff here. I don't know if yet we don't have another good battleship. Okay, so that's 4 light cruisers, 3 heavy cruisers. We can move down what I deployed recently, these destroyers here. Let's move the destroyers. Well, no, we'll move the heavies up to the destroyers, I think. These guys, I think, we'll save for a carrier. I do want to make, well, where did it go? Okay, well, lost it. God damn. Lost a heavy cruiser there somewhere. Be one of these home ported ones. Okay. Be now one with not fully Readiness. Oh, against boats there. Where did it go? Did I? It's having a senior moment here, it seems like. Yeah, I thought we were going to have 3. I think it can be deployed to Nova, you know. Could it be out in Hawaii? I don't think so. It has to be deployed somewhere. Yeah. You should research better air intercepting tactics. Is that yes? And you're not wrong about that. But what I'm sort of focusing on is getting the ship infrastructure done right. Oh well, I guess I lost it somehow. I don't know what happened to that. 3rd light cruiser. Oh, maybe it isn't. There it is. That's it. The Honolulu. Okay. Pause. Damn it. Okay. Okay. Now what we're going to do is put these together. Get Halsey out of here. Okay. We're gonna save these for going for carrier group. Okay. We don't care about that. Pilot training. My concept is it takes a long time to build a battleship. So I want to get these techs advanced early as I can, so that when it takes a year or more to build a battleship, they'll be up there where I can update the interception tactics a bit later. You're absolutely right that it needs to be done. I'm just focusing on other things first, I think, is maybe not always better things, but it's definitely a thing to do. Okay, what kind of pilot are we over here? Well, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, 1940. Okay. And interception and air superiority tactics. Yeah, I guess we can switch over to that now. I do like interception tactics and airport capabilities. Now that we got those up to 1940, and we can do the other. We can do air superiority tactics. Get those up. And okay, yeah, I screwed up when I moved the mod over here. I didn't put in I made a quick mini mod that dealt with the U.S. stuff from Third Reich events, so sorry the event. This is, oh, the St. Louis is right here. Yes, the St. Louis. This is St. Louis. It's a ship that was chartered with Jewish refugees. They tried to get into America. That didn't work. They got sent back, basically to France, and most of them ended up dying. And so we can send them back. We will gain a little bit of dissent, lose a little bit of national unity, get improved relations with that, or we can let them enter. Well, that's the historical one, and that's what the AI is set to do, but we're going to be the good guys and let them in. let the refugees in. Hello, Ari. How's work doing? Molybdenum mines come online. Very good. And HQ divisions. Division HQs. Okay, that's just at 39, so we can let that continue. Strategic Air Command, we're going to bomb the hell out of Germany. Yeah, we'll let that go. Okay, pact included. Japan has been accepted into the Axis. So they're in the Axis now. Oh, another one of the Third Reich events that doesn't. This is Germany in You. It was a publication for both. I think it was mainly in the U.S., but it was also, I think, for Britain too. But it improves the Americans' perception of Germany is why we get improved with what's relations with them. Okay, 4-engine armament research advance. I wish I didn't screw those things up. Yeah. What engine research advance? Let's stop that because it's a 40 at Army HQs. That's a 42, so we'll do that. Yeah, let's do these. Fine. Gun ability, 4-engine airplanes. I think that's under armament. Okay, yeah, I guess we'll do that. We want our flying fortresses festooned with 50 cal machine guns. Okay, who wants aluminum? Canada wants aluminum. All right, I guess we can lose the money, or we can use the money, not lose the money, use the money. Copper. Okay, so we're down to well, we're up to copper +1. Molybdenum we've lost because we're now neutral on molybdenum. Airframe research. Need that one. Because that will then allow us to research there. Move that to the top, just make sure it's fully researching. Yeah, there we go. That's a good one to have. Now, there we go. Not put the wrong thing. Now we can heavy bomber. Something I'm not used to doing is Germany. Okay, so now the Axis. I don't know why it happened so early for Japan coming in, and Italy isn't in the Axis yet. Nope, not with Italy. So weird not planning to go to war right now. It's so weird. I know it's getting ready, and I know we're getting ready for the war, but I think it's under here. Dual purpose guns advance. That I think is here. And start doing like, yeah, we should do mechanical computing. Now, mechanical computing is interesting. I've been looking into some of the stuff recently. It's definitely not playing Hearts of Iron on a mechanical computer. There are definitely tabulating machines, calculators, if you will, that are mechanical computers during this time. But a lot of what that is that might not so much help with research, like we're seeing here, research efficiency up for mechanical or electronic. Of course, we eventually get the IBM machine that is decoding the Enigma codes. It's even when the Allies didn't have a copy of the book. At times they did capture. They captured a few Enigma machines. Poland got Britain one, and they captured a few more and actually got some of the code books at times. Even when they didn't have a current code book, the IBM machines were able to just, through sheer computing power, break the code. So yeah, they did have that type, but also mechanical computers were important in things like ships. That Britain had their own system, good, but I don't think as good as the Americans at, because all throughout the 20s and the 30s they were funding I forget who it was, a relatively small firm to manufacture and develop these things that are gun aiming systems, if you will, and they're mechanical. You put in things like your ship's speed, your ship's course. Put in the enemy ship's not only like distance, but its speed and its course, and it calculates all of those factors and then it adjusts, and then you sort of point the sight at the enemy ship, and it takes all that in and then adjusts for the two sets of or multiple sets of moving factors. Like you're traveling north and they're traveling south, and you're going 10 knots and they're going 12 knots, but it's never that clean of a calculation, but it calculates all that. So then it figures out how, where to lead, where to trail the ship. And so there's a lot of mechanical computing goes into that was quite useful. So it's not like or at least not always what we think of as, a calculating or tabulating type machine. Okay, we have a new capital shipyard in Mobile, Alabama. Barbed wire, so we get better security for installations. We'll get more molybdenum because it expired in Dominican Republic. Fine. What? Yes. Okay, we got capital shipyards. Get our ships produced a little better and faster. Light bomber prototype has advanced. Good. Okay. Yeah, we could do reconnaissance aircraft. Who wants their molybdenum? No. Okay, cruiser, medium anti-air. Increased range, that would be nice. Maybe critical. And somebody stole some blueprints. At least we're now only going up with, well, all of our resources. That's good. Yeah, well, the world's at peace. No point in not having a neutrality act. Um, two-engine transport plane prototypes. Go. And we have enough money we can, say, invest for 10,000 money. Reduce consumer goods during peacetime. All right, consumer goods. Well, I don't know that we need to. Anything more than. I don't think so. So now let's look at our. Okay. They're calling national defense. Used to be, production or armaments minister. No, I think we'll leave him where and how we are. Head of intelligence will continue with J. Edgar Hoover. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we'll go over to Marshall as chief of staff. Near Superiority, Hap Arnold. I guess he's a progressive party. How would Hap Arnold be I? Okay. Don't know anything about Hap Arnold, but I would be surprised that any of these things are other than Democrats or Republicans. Um, not. We'll keep a unified party. And we're now high popularity, so we get leadership and small caliber cannon and MG. So that's very good. But I think we're going to end the episode, not the live stream, but the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, of course, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, post a comment. Love hearing from you. Hey, Rhaegar. So love hearing from you. See you next time for even more Hearts of Iron. Don't worry, everyone. Rhaegar included. We're going to continue with this. I'll be right back in a moment, and we will continue. Got a lot to get through today. Back. It's weird. Instead of Mongolia, it says Mongoloid. Well, that's somebody's weird font for Russia. Um, that's just a weird A. Um, you can see, I guess there isn't an A in Soviet Union, but it's just some sort of pseudo Cyrillic backwards letters a bit. So, yeah, that's a capital A there. Okay, let's make another episode here. Welcome back, fellow Armchair Generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough, yes, of Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice. And we're playing as the United States, and we have to distribute some research points here. Slots. Okay, we can, let's do our medium armor and our light armor. So without high popularity, we will also do armored car designs. We'll see how long high popularity stays. I would say for most of this time period, FDR and the Democrats are staying as in high popularity. Okay, so we've got, okay, we can do this, that, switching that over, and Aero engine is also grayed out. Okay. Nope, no, we're not trading with Luxembourg, sorry. That's why I think this system is silly. Or Luxembourg was, for its size of nation, it was fairly well industrialized, but okay, submarine, New Zealand, okay. Maybe medium bomber prototypes. Cruiser, anti-aircraft artillery. Paratrooper activation, very nice. Well, it's a little early for jungle warfare, but we could start on some desert warfare. Equipment and single engine research, okay. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, can the U.S. kick out Biden and Kamala and do elections now? No, we cannot. Not in a practical sense. we can impeach. You are only supposed to impeach for high crimes. Though the trial, the impeachment happens in the House of Representatives, right now majority controlled Democrat, and then the trial happens in the Senate. It's the senators try him. Trump was impeached in the House twice. Both trials failed in the Senate, and you have to go through the trial in the Senate to be removed. I suspect highly, not a guarantee. Well, one, I highly suspect that the Republicans will win the House. A lot of the Republicans will want to impeach Biden. I think there's a bunch of Republicans who will be afraid to impeach Biden, and they're going to impeach Biden over Ukraine and Hunter Biden earlier, not Ukraine today, but what they did when Obama was president. I think Biden will be impeached, but I don't think the Senate may not even. Well, I think they sort of have to try if the House impeaches, but they could just simply vote to acquit or whatever. So it's not. It's a theoretical possibility, but you don't do elections. See that's the one thing you don't do. So what would happen is if you get rid of Biden, then Kamala becomes president. And then you get rid of Kamala, then whoever the Speaker of the House becomes president. So you don't do a new election. So it would be the Speaker of the House that would be the head kind of things. But all of our elections are scheduled in the Constitution as when they happen. Okay, anti-air ignition advance. That I believe is here. We'll do so. Held artillery brigades. Hamilton Harris. Yeah. I don't know if you listen to her speeches. She says things like Russia invade Ukraine. Russia's a bigger country, or something weird statements that. I don't know. We've improved our radar. Good. Now it opens up all of these for destroyers, cruisers, and others. Fighter advance. That would be here, I think. Yeah, I know we're behind, but I do want to get these radars going here. Yeah, Hunter Biden got a lot of money from Ukraine. I managed to find a video from one of Hunter Biden's parties he done when he was in Ukraine. Smelled like corruption. Yeah, no, that was corrupt. And you even had Joe Biden saying, he said, you fire that prosecutor now or before I go home, or you won't get the money that the U.S. government says they're going to get to you. So his illegal corruption was through the U.S. governmental process, we allocated money for Ukraine. Biden, as vice president, is sitting somewhere in Ukraine, presumably Kiev, but I don't know where, and he tells them to fire the prosecutor who's looking into Hunter Biden, or you won't get the U.S. government money. Okay? He said that. It's on videotape. That is a crime because it did not state anywhere in the conditions like when Congress and whatever passes, passes like they did the 40 billion for Ukraine now, goes through and passes the thing. They never said conditions are you must do this or this other thing. It was never in there, and it was a private thing. And Biden said this publicly. So unless he was lying, which he wasn't, so that is a corrupt act. It is using your government office for personal gain, and it's clear, and it's corrupt, and he should have been prosecuted for it. Our Justice Department is politically left. It is unwilling to go after a Democrat on those kinds of things. So they didn't. I don't think the Justice Department wants to go after them, but I think, you don't have to do it. All you have to do is hold a few hearings in Congress and then vote to impeach. I think almost every one of the there will be a bunch of new Republican members of Congress will want to impeach Biden. And there are probably a minority of Republicans that want to impeach Biden. I think maybe they may be able to push all the Republicans to impeach Biden. It'll be just like Trump, and it'll be like, well, whatever. And things will just go on. Nothing will really change other than Biden will be impeached, and maybe multiple times. Battle cruiser class. I don't know if we're planning on building it like I keep saying, but I figured we could afford to research them. Okay, and heavy AA guns. That is artillery, I believe. Okay. Here. You can like Biden, you can hate Biden, but I do believe from his own statements, so this isn't me conjecturing or what proofs I have, I'm just going off what the hell he said. Now, I have to wonder, once he's impeached, Kamala Harris hates Biden, and Biden and Mrs. Biden hate Kamala. I think Kamala may try to push whatever amendment that they did after Wilson, forget which number, for incapacitated presidents, unfit for office, and try to remove Biden that way as being mentally not capable of doing the job, to get her in as president. I don't know that would be better, certainly be different. And hey, we'd have the first Indian American president. Drop tanks sound like a good thing to get. Ford Motor strike. Okay, the UAW's next target was the Ford Motor Company, which had a long resisted unionization. Ford manager Henry Bennett used brute force to keep the union out of Ford, and his Ford Service Department was set up as an internal security, intimidation, and espionage unit within the company. It was not reluctant to use violence against union organizers and sympathizers. Battle of the Overpass. It took until 1941 for Ford to agree to collective bargaining agreement with the UAW. Okay, but yeah, that freaking revolt thingy we're having here, I hate those. When Joe isn't able to do his job, he's too senile for that. With Kamala, we get in, she would be the first. Well, but she's half. She's only half black. Her other half is Indian. I believe it's her mother. Am not, correct me if I'm wrong. Her mother is Indian, I believe, from Jamaica, I believe. Commonwealth Indian, or whatever you want to call that. West Indian, I don't know. Twin engines. for here. Okay, fuel tanks. Well, we're going to use some of those, but let's look over here. Okay, winning the Battle of Detroit. Fuselage aerodynamics. That is here. Stop that. Now, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the two leading black, if you will, Detroit Bay City, yeah. Hello, Sergeant, or Night Sergeant Huntman. How you doing today? I don't know. The two leading black elected politicians so far being Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. Neither of them, to the best of my knowledge, has any significant family history as being a black American. Find that interesting because Obama's father was Kenyan, and I think Kamala Harris's father, if I'm not mistaken, because I believe her mother is Indian, but her father is Jamaican. I mean, she and Barack and her were both born in America. They're both Americans. I'm not trying to say they're not Americans. They're both Americans. They're both black, yes, but neither of them have a long family history and are culturally not part of black America. At least that's how I would say it, because Obama grew up in Indonesia as a young child. That's, you get a lot of enculturated as a young child. He's either Indonesia or Hawaii for Obama. And so it's not within black communities. And you see I don't know as well Kamala's background, but I believe it is also, her father was like a university professor. And I think moved around quite a bit, I think. Sorry if I'm getting some of these wrong. No, I don't think Obama was born in Kenya. No, I really don't believe so. I don't have the evidence, but I think they did produce a birth certificate of birth in Hawaii and a newspaper announcement of his birth way back then in Hawaii as well. So he was born in the United States. Kamala was also born in the United States, but again, I believe both of her parents are of sort of British Commonwealth legacy, as opposed to, a longer history of American cultural background, if you will. Okay, we've got a lot of extra supply, so what we're going to do is we're going to reduce that a bit. We're not going to go there you go. So because he ain't from African hood or America's hood. Yeah, that's sort of what I mean, Night Sergeant Huntman. And again, everybody, I don't care about people's skin color. I'm a culturalist. Individuals are individuals, absolutely. Every individual is an individual. But as large groups of people, I look at their culture. And that is what I think is a determining factor. It's, you can see, the different cultures between, shall we say, the Anglo culture of England and, say, the Russian culture. They're both white people, but they're very different cultures. And You can look at, say, the different culture between um, Japan and Vietnam. Yeah, they're both Asian peoples. They're both Asian cultures, but they're very different cultures if you look at them. And the way you walk around a Japanese city, you walk around a Vietnamese city, they're very different, and it's mainly because of culture. So I'm a culturalist. I try to look at large groups of people, and I find it interesting that um, the two leading elected black officials in America, neither of them come out of the American black communities. And there's different communities. There's communities in Chicago or Detroit, or there's black communities in Louisiana. And they're going to be different black communities. And I don't know all the nuances of Louisiana culture at all, white, black, or indifferent, or whatever. But I know, but I know they're different than black culture up in here, and I know there's connections between them, and I'm not an expert, but I know there are things, and there's urban black communities and there's rural black communities within America, and they're different, and I know all that stuff. And again, I don't know all the nuances, all the different cultures, variances of all the different peoples in this parts of America, because again, I'm from out here. The communities are different out here than they are here. So Japanese, yeah, well, okay, yeah, genetics, but see, I don't think genetics are a primary determiner, and I think you look at it, Vietnamese are sort of, I guess, at least to me, look, and I'm not a geneticist, but look more Han Chinese than they do Kramer or whatever, Cambodian interpiece, because I think they're sort of peoples that have migrated out of China down in here, which are similar to people that migrated out to here, I believe. So yeah, I know they didn't find the original Rhaegar. I know, but I don't believe that he was born outside of the U.S., and it doesn't matter at this point. But it does matter where you're raised. Obama was raised for a good number of years out in Indonesia, and then the rest of his young life, to the best of my knowledge, is out in Hawaii, which has its own culture. And it wasn't until his college years, is my understanding, really, and it's maybe not entirely college years, but until he gets back into, American universities back on the mainland. And so, it affects you, where you're raised, who you grew up with, your attitudes, your values, all of that kind of stuff. Close air support. Yeah, okay. No, I just find it's interesting that those two and they come from different paths. They come out of different backgrounds. I don't think Kamala Harris's parents were overly radical, where Obama's parents were both radicals of the left. That's here. So yeah, I just that's sort of interesting. I find, and I'm not sure what it says. I don't know whether it's just random dice rolls that they were at the right place at the right time to get elected, or whether there's something deeper in it. I don't know. Germany, Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. Okay, well, the war in Europe is about ready to start. Aircraft prototype evaluation has advanced. That is Europe. Okay, what do we got? Okay, the Yorktown. A bunch of other factories have been deployed. Well, because we're not even going to see these until May 42. The Intrepid and the Franklin. I do think carriers are the way to go. We're going to unclick CAGs for the moment. We'll do two CAGless. We will get CAGs built, but I want to get these really long production. That would give us 6 carriers. We got the Enterprise and what's up here. The Yorktown will be built sooner. We'll have some. Well, we could do some CVLs. Yeah, let's do. Three CVLs. And then we'll do 2 battleships. Pull these down to the bottom. We got that. Okay, well, we're going to. Let's see. We have. Okay, that's going to be the cruiser. Okay, so let's get this. Let's drop this here. You can come into there. And let's give these guys some light cruiser protection. Do we want Halsey or? Yeah, Halsey's all right. With that, I think. Division HQ, Division Headquarters Advance. Okay, whatever. How are we say that? Yeah, we'll let that continue. No, what's? Oh, that's us over here. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, well, yeah, we can do Court H headquarters. Military Corporation, which I think is another one over here. Yes. Okay, well, let's do brigade structures. Ordering the U.S. or aircraft for USS Hornet. Okay, well, I guess we can do this. Okay, let's read this. Why is this an event? Okay, USS Hornet CV-8, the 7th ship to carry the name Hornet, was a Yorktown class aircraft carrier of the United States during World War II Pacific Theater. She launched the Doolittle raid on Tokyo and participated in the Battle of Midway and the Buen Spicy. I have Tono Lai Ray, don't know that. In the Solomon Islands campaign, she was involved in the capture and the defense of Guadalcanal and the Battle of Santa Cruz Island, where she was irreparably damaged and sunk. The Hornet was in service for a year and 6 days and was the last U.S. fleet carrier ever sunk by enemy fire. For these actions, she was awarded 4 service stars, a citation for the Doolittle raid, and her torpedo squadron 8 received the Presidential Unit Citation for extraordinary heroism at the Battle of Midway. So, lose medal, get U.S.A. Hornet build text. Okay. Okay, so we now have the Hornet. It's going to be a fake ship that'll come through our system here. We'll move it to the top to get it through there, hopefully cheaply, and out the other side. Okay, motorized HQs advance. That would be here. Paratrooper HQs, that would be useful. And land base air warning radar has advanced. Okay, well, once we get into 1940, more official, or actually, we need to build some radars in places like, well, I don't know, Hawaii. Yeah, we'll let that continue. The U.S. gets new orders from France. We can accept it, no need. Yep, we'll do that. Now, this is about the time, September, when the war kicks off. Ah. Okay, government reorganization. Yeah, we're going to do that. Danziger War, last chance for peace. Pact concluded. Canada is in there. We've lost the effects of high popularity and mobile firepower. Focus has advanced. Long button, that's the button we want. But now we don't have as much research available. So, okay, U.S.A. gets paid for second shipment. France, okay, so we get some money, some supplies. We get 2 light aircraft factories in Buffalo, an anti-aircraft gun in Buffalo, not that we need that. Right, okay, the Yorktown is launched, very good. Export of copper to who? Greece, no thank you. Japan is going to go to war with who? I don't know. Ooh, this is going to be brutal. You understand what I think is going to happen here? What I think is going to happen is Japan, because it's joined the Axis so early, it's going to be at war with the British and the French. That will be interesting. Let's do HQs. Tactical operational command. So that's going to be an interesting thing to all these 42s we've achieved, and they're too far in advance to continue now. Army headquarters 1930, that's way out of date. We'll get that going. Let's see, we've got a lot of these still to research. We can do airborne assault tactics, that might be useful. Let's do reconnaissance. There we go. This is going to be interesting to see. Okay, President, we have been subject to embargo by Germany. Okay, mobile defense. One of these here. Um, 20 light aircraft. Okay. South Africa joins the Allies. Surge of volunteers. Well, very good. Cuba. Chinese plus Indian manpower would be a nightmare if properly brought together. Hello, Finnegan. Well, you do know right now the India and China are not getting along, to say the least. They're almost at war with each other. I mean, there's battles going on the border between, well, the Tibetan border that India occupies, and or not, sorry, that China occupies, that is along, the Indian border, and even Bhutan asking for a while, got some Indian troops to sort of push back some Chinese that were building a road into an unasked for road being built into Bhutan. So I don't see India and China getting along. They're also culturally very different. They're very different. Earlier we were talking about the difference between the Japanese culture and the Vietnamese culture, but shall we say the Orient, this part of the world, versus I don't know if you want to go South Asia or whatever you want to call this part of the world. They're very different culturally. Yeah, I know this is Hindu, and Hinduism sprouted Buddhism, and Buddhism is spread across here, and I get a lot of the cultural contacts and all, but yeah, they're very different. Very different. Okay, looks like the Germans are pushing into Poland pretty heavily now. Okay, we're going to slow this up a little bit now that it's getting more. Republic of China Nanjing has mobilized gun ability for engine airplanes has advanced. So, okay. Canada. Yes, you can have a submarine help with being built. Yes, you can have some energy, Denmark. Unity face, common origin, but a hell of a lot of divergence in face is not entirely. No. I was just talking. Religion is a element of culture. The word culture comes out of the word cult, which is a religious connotation. But I was just talking about the cultural contacts. Basically, until the modern age, you had very little cultural contact. Let's go over to this. Across this sort of line where I'm drawing, this was an extreme barrier. You either came down along the coast, whether on the on land or the water and around this way. If you're coming from China, or you're coming sort of out and around sort of Silk Road routes around this way, there is or was, I should say, very little contact across Tibet into India and back and forth, it was extremely little. They had very little contact between them. Um, I'm sure that there's more contact between, say, India and China than there was, say, between China and ancient Rome. But there probably wasn't too much more contact between India and, say, ancient Iran. These are probably running about a similar level of contact. I'm just, somebody who, again, I'm talking well pre-modern time periods here. It's really the sort of Mongol invasion that puts a lot of contact into India, and as the name sort of morphs and changes, they sort of morph and change. The Mughals of India, I believe, are sort of Mongol interlopers, or however you want to define that relationship. But sort of watching Poland being taken down, we've slowed up. Slightly more manageable level here of watching. Okay, machine gun cannon combo has advanced. On division HQs, which, yes, this time it's this one over here. Auxiliary fuel tanks. Okay, so it's got greater range. To be honest, I never have your patience playing this long without going to war with someone. Yeah, it is a slow build-up. That's one of my motivations for, not the only and not even the primary, for Third Reich Events, the mod, in that it's helps make the build-up to the war more interesting. More events, more decisions to make. I'm just in. Okay, who wants this? Canada. How much more molybdenum do we currently? We're at level 2 surplus. We're not really building much armor. We're not building any armor right now. Our materials we got plenty of. Okay, we'll sell this out. Maybe it'll help Canada. But currently we can see in actual building we are finishing up some heavy industry. I don't know whether I should really be pumping out more of that at this point or not. I just don't know, people. I've not played America before. We've almost got the Enterprise good. We're going through a bunch of these CVLs, or the Independence class. Some more cruisers, get these things done. Get into some battleships, because even these these CVLs, which are a little bit faster build, that's going to be September 41, just before the war hit. The battleship, if it keeps going, is going to be March 43. If it doesn't get, pushed down, or it's just 27% being done right here, but that's 1952. It won't take that long. So the U.S. was building, I think a bit more than this. I'm building more carriers right now. I know that. See, it's the other lane. See them going in. New Zealand joins the Allies. Assault weapons advance, and these are the types of engineering assault weapons. Because we're trying to get through some of this. I used to a long time ago before Hoi 4, but anything is still the same, more always better. The U.S., your whole thing is endless, constantly growing production to drown your enemies. That's somewhat essentially the strategy for America, for sure. I'm just worried about the amount of ICs I'm going to have, and then am I going to have enough manpower to, when I really start trying to build divisions. How about building a large fleet of torpedo boats later on for coastal defense? We might. I got coastal. Took me a second, but I got it. We have to look at our priorities, Arno. Right now, like I say, I've never played this before, America. This seems awfully light on ICs. Consumer product orientation. Well, we can probably eventually change some of these laws once we go to war. That will probably help. We'll lose the pre-war levels of roads, rail, seaports, and airports, which will help. It's that 15% more ICs just there. Mining is at -15 also. So we're gonna get better than we are right now with ICs fairly quickly, hopefully. But so after that, our priorities will be to build up. We got a bunch of destroyers, though they're older. They're Clemson class. They're not maybe better, more modern destroyers. We'll be building divisions to go in and hold places like the Philippines prior to the start of the war, and air power is sort of next. And we'll see what goes from there. I'm not sure much further down the road than that as plans. So very possibly some coast light torpedo boat forces. That seems like a good thing, but that is generally it's cheaper, true, less expensive and quick to build, so that's good as well. Let's build some training up. But we're doing anything to build up manpower at all. If I remember correctly, there was ways to affect us. Well, we can see here from technology, decisive battle doctrine, improved technology 44%, decisive battle doctrine 10%. Now we're right now at volunteer army, so it's down by 20% by that. Economic stage focus 3, we're at 15%. Mining will stay for the rest of the game at -10%, but agricultural industry continues to improve 15%. We have mass livestock, which means food available, so we can see, right now we are at a volunteer army, and that is the best we can do. We can get to various things to try to, get conscription going. And right now our service length is 6 months. We can move it up to 3-year draft right now, but it'll reduce our when it happens, our ICs by 4% and our money. So I haven't wanted to do that. And we're doing 6 months, which helps our ICs. So yeah, we'll see about that. But I'm sort of paying attention. It's not great. And I think we will end the episode here, not the live stream, but the episode. I want to thank you all watching. Really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Really do appreciate that. And post a comment. It is great to hear from you, see who's out there actually watching these videos, getting this far to the end. Thanks, everyone. See you next time for even more, yes, more Hearts of Iron. And don't worry, we're going to continue. Let me just make a sort of a safety save here. And we will continue. Yeah, early 41 kind of thing with the drafts and push on that. It does help, the earlier you do it, the more manpower you ramp up, but hopefully we can do it. Definitely seen the AI. Now the AI gets a lot of boosts that the player won't. But I definitely see the AI run out of manpower as playing as Germany, but seeing America run out of manpower. So I'm sort of hoping we don't have that big problem. We'll see how that goes. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745, and we're going to continue playing Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice, and we're playing as U.S.A. And Australia would like a close support aircraft 1. Okay, or help building one of those. Now let's click over here and let's click here. They are at war, Germany and Slovakia. Okay, well, I am actually sort of pleased, and let's look over here at Britain. Okay, so they're still just at war with Germany and Slovakia. That's good. I was worried that with Japan in the Axis, Germany would be calling them to the war, so they haven't yet. That is good. Because we could see things like Japan controlling down here, and just, not that would be too difficult to fight against when the time comes, but it just means less historical at the start. The U.S. did push in. I don't think it sent any Shermans, but they sent, I think it was just Stuart tanks, light tanks, and I think some half-tracks into the Philippines prior to the war starting. But they were really trying to build up the army there better, but we're just always a little too late. More gear focused, military, like mechanized tanks, etc. Probably better than pure infantry for the most part. Yeah, on that, I'm definitely looking at building at submarine divisions for the Pacific, and probably some infantry, or infantry divisions for the Pacific. I'm probably looking at doing some of those as that for, and then whatever unless something is, yeah, okay, well, we might, if there's not an event. See, I just don't know. Cavalry brigades, and sometimes I don't know whether motorized, or we should just turn them into armor division, or if there's going to be an event. Now this is semi-motorized infantry with light tanks. I I quite honestly do not know how these work. These are new to me. So we'll see how they go. Tanks are a bit optimistic for 1939 to have any of these units actually have tanks. So if this division doesn't change, that'll be fine as semi-motorized infantry division. Hello, Machiavelli. Well, cool. Machiavelli is one of my favorite political. No, you're not really political how-to peoples. Have they done updates for Black Ice recently? Last I played was this is for there's a Black Ice for Hearts of Iron 4 and there's a Black Ice for Hearts of Iron 3. This is Hearts of Iron 3, obviously, and this is 11.2. So we're at 11.2. I don't know the current number. I'm sort of waiting. I haven't checked in a couple of months for them to do a newer version of Black Ice for Hearts of Iron 4 before I get back and want to play that. Copper, good. We get back some of those resources back into our isotope separation. Well, bunch of 40. I don't know. No, I got more things. We get a big bunch of leadership, but let's do some army improvements. Oh yeah, no, they're still working on it. Oh yeah, no, they're working on more things for Black Ice, very much so. It's not the original team. Yeah, we'll do that. It's sort of an inherited team. Yes, you can have metal. Yes, you can have energy. Have you read Machiavelli? Machiavelli? We're just watching Germany invade Poland, basically. That's why I'm hovering over Germany while playing the U.S. Oh, Folk, yes, that discourse on Livy. If Machiavelli wrote that, I've only read two works by Machiavelli. The Prince, and I have a copy of that, El Principe. And I have his Art of War. He did write a book called The Art of War as well, or some such title in Italian. I of course have the English, and I also did a pilgrimage to his grave in Florence, just outside the church where he's buried. So yeah, know a bit about it. Kaiserreich for Hawaii 3 is still being worked on last I checked. Well, cool. Okay, battleship classes have advanced. And I know I have put recently, and it probably would have been better to wait for this to happen before I put some of the battleships in production. But I'm just not paying close enough attention to how far the progress is going and what I should be doing, so it's not the most precise playthrough. No, I look at the theoretical jet engine. Let's do that. Yes, you can have rare materials. We have plenty. So this is just static here. I guess there's enough divisions on either side. Keeping either side from attacking. Whoever's zinc deals have expired. Okay. FDR, Fireside Chats. Oh, there's a lot of them. Okay. Don't know which one is supposed to happen first. Okay, on the European War. I don't think I'm going to read all of this, but tonight my single duty is to speak to the whole of America and tell. For 4:30 this morning, I had hoped against hope that some miracle would prevent a devastating war in Europe and bring an end to the invasion of Poland. Okay, yes, nation will remain a neutral nation, but I cannot ask that every single American remain neutral in thought as well. Yeah, okay. An unlimited national emergency. My fellow Americans of all the all the Americas, my friends, I am speaking tonight from the White House in the presence of governing board of the Pan American Union, the Canadian Prime Minister and their families. Members of this board are the ambassadors and ministers of the American republics in Washington. And he's meaning the Americas as in like Central and South America, I believe. It is appropriate that we do this from now on, never before. The unity of the American republics is of supreme importance to each and every one of us. The pressing problems that confront us are military and naval problems. We cannot afford to approach them from the point of view of wishful thinkers or sentimentalists. What we face is cold, hard fact. The first and fundamental fact is that what started as a European war has developed, as the Nazis always intended to be, should develop into a world war for world domination. Therefore, with proud conclusion, my responsive country's cause, I have tonight issued a proclamation that an unlimited national emergency exists and requires the strengthening of our defenses to the extreme limit of our national power and authority. The nation will expect all individuals. Hey, thanks for following. Hello. I'm going to butcher this. Mercleaves? Probably butchering it, sorry. Don't mean to. Strengthening our defense authority, our nation will expect all individuals, groups without doubt. Okay. So, look to turn off the radio. Okay, so we gain 3 in descent. We were talking about manpower. Gain 600 manpower and 5,000 officers. Okay. We would give them money for supplies. Okay. Maybe you just need the money. Okay, Gamer's gonna compare and contrast and talk about problems. Today's versus then. We see Germany in 1935 reoccupy the Saarland. We see Germany in 1936, definitely against the Treaty of Versailles, which Germany had signed, remilitarize the Rhineland. A military invasion, unopposed, but a military invasion of the Rhineland, which had been under, by that point, the Saarland had been under French, up until 1935, under French administration, although recognized as part of Germany, but it was, sort of reparations and whatnot, been administered by the French. Very low level, very minor scale guerrilla warfare going on by the Germans against the French occupation. Hardly reported upon, but did exist, and it's very minor. I don't want to overplay that. But they're gone in 35. In 36, it's entirely civil administration in the Rhineland. But at the beginning of 36, Germany does a military invasion, which my understanding is Hitler gave orders that if the French, because they were the only ones likely, were to start marching into the Rhineland to counter it, to immediately turn around and retreat, not to fight. Do not fight the French, but do try to military occupy it. Then in sorry, you're from Italy. Well, very good to have you here. Merclev. I like to have people from different parts of the world watching. And I know I play so much, but what was it? Late 37, you have Germany militarily invading Austria. Yes, again, unopposed. And then they hold a referendum on was the invasion a good idea? And yes, everyone says, yes, it was a good idea. Just about 90% or whatever say yes. The invasion was a good idea. So they take over Austria, which that had been forbidden to happen by the victors of World War I up until that point. I don't know if it was explicitly in any treaty that Austria signed, but they were told, no, don't do that, because they tried to do that like in 1920 or so, right after the war, but they got told, nope, you don't get to unify with Germany. And then in 1938, for sure I know, you have the Germany militarily invades, again unopposed, the Sudetenland. And then you have a independence declared of Slovakia, and a German military invasion, again unopposed militarily, of the rest of Czechoslovakia. Well, Hungary snaps up. I mean, they already before even Slovakia, when they're still Czechoslovakia, Hungary invades and takes basically right along here, and Germany sort of let them have it kind of thing. But there is a brief. I mean, there's like 20 people killed or something. I mean, it's not like a big fighting invasion, but there is a Hungarian military invasion. And then they later, when Slovakia or Czechoslovakia breaks up, they snap up the rest down here. Ciao. And on solution 37, okay. 37, 38. So that, and then in 39 is when they grab up, early 39 is when they grab up the rest of Czechoslovakia. Hitler wanted a fighting war over the Sudetenland, but only against Czechoslovakia, not against any other power. He didn't get it. He wanted a war in Poland, a training war to see how his army would do. But he didn't want to have who he feared that would come in, the Soviet Union, so he did the Ribbentrop-Molotov agreement with the Soviets to divide up Poland and Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, and Finland, and this little bit here to Romania, not Ploetsi, but a little bit of Romania to the Soviet Union. Did that dividing up there. Gambled. He didn't believe. He believed that England would not fight over Poland. Obviously, he was wrong, but he knew it was a gamble. And we know very much that Poland wasn't going to be the end of expansion for Germany. Why the Soviets? I mean, Hitler says in his book he's going to go east. He wants Ukraine. Doesn't everybody? He says it in his book. People didn't believe his book. He was serious in his book. The only thing that was going to stop Hitler from getting his goals was apparent strong opposition to getting those goals, okay? he did not, because France had a defense agreement with Czechoslovakia that if Germany attacks Czechoslovakia, we'll go to war. Now, it wasn't really anything much more than we'll go to war. They might have just gone to war and then like sat behind the Maginot Line and say, yeah, damn, that's really sad that the Germans have now made it to, Prague or wherever. That's really sad, and just continue to be at war but sit behind the Maginot Line. The French did not want to go to war without the English. Primarily, they wanted the English for multiple reasons, but they wanted the English there to help contain Germany militarily, or particularly with the Navy. I don't know how much they thought Italy was likely to enter into the war at the time, because remember, at the beginning of 1935, I don't know how much treaties it was, but there's basically an alliance between, a military alliance between England, France, and Italy. And it is only Italy's invasion of Ethiopia that starts to basically breaks that up, the reaction of Britain and France. And also in late 35 and in early 36, you have Italy forming the Three Powers Pact of Italy, Austria, and Hungary as an anti-German alliance. So Italy, in late 35, early 36 is still very anti-German. It is only the isolation and reaction over Ethiopia that moves over time Italy into the German orbit and alliances and breaks it out. So I don't know how worried they are that Mussolini is going to, be there as a buddy pal of Hitler's, or just be, sort of like what was the fact of Franco in Spain basically sitting around and being neutral. I don't know that they had a clear idea. And so now Britain, of course, is critical, along with France, to controlling the Mediterranean against Italy. So, and in 38, that's pretty weak. It's really starting to only build in 36. So it's the German-Italian alliance hasn't really solidified, and it is only the second wave of negotiations over the Sudetenland that Mussolini comes in as an arbiter, and he's even seen as an arbiter to arbitrate between the Western Allies, France, because there's only four people attending, four countries. Czechoslovakia isn't there. It's England, it's France, and Germany is who've been negotiating, and Italy comes in to arbitrate between them. So he's still, and so he's still even seen at that point not as Hitler's, right-hand man or ally or whatever. No, he's seen as, well, maybe he's a guy that we can settle this out and negotiate a settlement, and get and avoid a war and get a settlement at this point. So, but France decides not to go to war over Czechoslovakia if Britain won't also go to war, and Chamberlain just believes Britain, and he's probably right, that Britain is not militarily ready for the war. Neither was Germany. They probably overestimated Germany's strength at that stage. That you have him saying, literally calling on the telephone, which the Germans are listening into, and I'm sure he knows that they're listening into, because he's sitting in Germany talking over German telephone into Czechoslovakia. So it's not. El Duce offered to mediate when Poland broke out. Okay. Italy's intervention in Spain riled up relations in the West. That as well, you're very right. That was also pushing Italy further into Germany's orbits. Spain, and you're very right to point that out. I was not putting that as part of the calculus, but it is. And so he's telling, I don't know if it was Hosda or the other, I forget one of the two Czechs, literally calling him on the phone and saying, you guys just give in. Britain, we're not going to go to war over the Sudetenland. They're Germans. Just give them the land. We'll have peace. For our time, I'm adding, to prepare for war, because I think Chamberlain realizes it's coming. But he believes, and I think he's right, that Britain isn't prepared for it. And also Britain isn't morally prepared. And France is just psychologically, the country of France is not prepared for World War II. We see that at all levels, in all formats. And I could go into them and we could talk about it for hours. So when France and UK put sanctions on Italian Eritrea, hello, Cola. Yeah, well that's what really starts to break it. But those sanctions go away almost immediately after the war in Ethiopia is over. They don't continue. Unlike a lot of sanctions today that some country does something bad, Iran, Russia, we'll get to Russia in a moment, does something bad. If they don't reverse it, the sanctions stay. The sanctions were lifted from Italy very quickly after the war was over. Also, the sanctions were on just about everything except for the one critical thing that could have worked. They did not sanction oil going to Italy. That was the one thing they did not sanction. Yes, hello, Cola. Michaela, Cola. So they did not sanction oil against Italy for the time. But like I say, it breaks the alliance in Je Vendez Folk. I'm probably butchering that. Rightly points out, yes, the tensions, continuing tensions. There's a lot to go into over Spain, the neutrality patrols, which Italy is sort of there, but Germany is very much there with the neutrality patrols, and there is, of course, approximately 3 divisions of Italian soldiers. Italian soldiers, not like the Germans are pretending to be volunteers, wearing non-German uniforms when they're there. No, the Italians are wearing Italian uniforms and waving Italian flags and driving around Spain. So everyone's noticing them and openly noticing that they're there. That is an element of it. So France is unwilling to, and Britain are unwilling to go to war over Czechoslovakia. But France, I know, had an explicit treaty with Czechoslovakia. I'm not sure if Britain was part of the treaty, a signatory part of that. I don't think it was. I think it was just France and Czechoslovakia. Now, also remember at the time, Poland supports Germany's position on getting the Sudetenland because they wanted this little bit right there. And when Germany gets the Sudetenland, they get this little bit, just this little bit right here. This was a majority Czech-speaking area. They wanted it, so they were, Germany can have Sudetenland, but we want our little bit here. And so Poland supports Germany's position. Not war with Czechoslovakia, but Sudetenland should be part of Germany. They supported the position. Countries, governments, yeah. Okay, so it sort of gets to my point. But so Hitler rolls the dice. He believes, not that he's sure, but he believes that Britain and France will not go to war over Poland. He believes it's a bluff because this is how he sees what happened over Czechoslovakia. And so Hitler is going to go towards his goal of going east. I don't think Hitler really envisioned in his lifetime I mean, the Polish about, yes. Yeah, I don't know. Siski Tsins, or however you pronounce it, wasn't like really trying to get to Vladivostok in his lifetime or anything like that. But and he really saw it as a multi-generational, slowly, sort of a replay of America's expansion across the West. Periodic, go to war with whatever you want to call the nation out here, grab up some more territory, integrate it into Germany, get it all integrated, and then maybe create some buffer states, and then go to war again and occupy the buffer states, and then sort of move the peoples of the allied peoples of the buffer states east and occupy. He sort of saw it as sort of incremental moving east, but definitely in his lifetime wanting to grab up something like Ukraine. Literally, we're talking about Ukraine here still. This has all been talking about Ukraine. So we see that Hitler's going to do this. Now, I do not believe. I believe. Let me say this. I believe that Hitler would attack in the West, but only when he thought it was ready. He believed it was necessary, and I also think there was an emotional, we lost last time, let's prove we can win. He did not have, he didn't even, to the best of my readings, didn't have a hatred of France. He definitely, I would say, not had a hatred of Britain. Now, he may have had contempt for France, but he didn't have like a hatred, like he wanted to crush them. But he wanted to sort of prove that, hey, yeah, we really could have beat you, kind of thing. Sort of like round two. Not because he wanted to destroy France, or not because he hated the people. I mean, he hated peoples out in the East. They were just Frenchmen, whatever that sort of dismissive of them maybe, but not a hatred of them, as far as I can tell. And so Hitler wants to get ready, wants to do this. So there's going to be a war. Now, we really sort of know that about Hitler, I believe. But things could change. Facts on the ground could change. One of the assassination attempts, this is one of the reasons why Hitler does what he does, is because there's assassination attempt after assassination attempt after assassination attempt, and they're all foiled, okay? And I'm not just talking the last big one with Stauffenberg and the bomb in there. There's many attempts. And some of them are foiled when some guy is arrested on a train heading towards a Hitler event while carrying a pistol. I mean, he never even gets to the city and he's arrested. Would that guy, and Hitler rides around in an open car, standing up, giving the straight arm salute. So yes, the guy might very well have gotten close enough, and yes, the guy might have been able to hit Hitler in a moving car and kill him, or he might not. I don't know. But some of these assassination attempts are either Hitler's late getting to the event and the bomb blows up, or things like he believes there's a guiding star. Hitler is a very spiritual, maybe not religious, and we can sort of get into that, but he's a very, sort of use the modern term, a very spiritual person. Not in a positive spiritual way, I would say, but he is spiritual. Honestly, Hitler's move should have been an alliance with Poland. Hitler again, he's spiritual and he's ideological. He wants to erase Poland. Poland gets erased. They even call it the general government of what? It's just the general government. They erase everything, use the term Pole. He wants to erase Poland. That is at a core of his belief systems, is to erase Poland. Hitler didn't want war against France because he had fear that he just wanted to take... No. Okay, see, he did not want the war... He wanted the war with Poland. He did not want a war with France in 1939. Okay, he did not want a war with France. He wanted a war with Poland. He wanted a war. He could have Danzig any moment he wanted. Danzig was a German-controlled city, basically. It was the Danzig corridor he was demanding. as far as I know. He was surprised, terrified of it. Well, he was worried about it, but he was terrified of the Russians at that moment. That's why he sent Ribbentrop east to do the Ribbentrop-Molotov agreement with Stalin and all that stuff, and divide Poland up. That's who he was terrified of. He was not terrified because he saw weakness in France, and he saw Britain unwilling to fight for Eastern countries. This is how I'm putting it. And my interpretation of it is he saw Britain willing to fight for France, Britain willing to fight for Belgium, maybe Netherlands or whatever in the West, but I think he did not see Britain willing to actually fight for countries in the East. Also remember, starting in about 1936, I think it is, Romania is trying to get a defensive agreement with France and Britain, but primarily with France. Both countries turn, and it's very publicly, because the King of Romania goes to France, goes to Britain, gets in all the newspapers that he's there on a diplomatic mission, that he's there to try to create an alliance. They turn him down. Okay, they turn him down. Now Hitler tries to get an alliance with Romania, and Romania turns Hitler down. And since he turns Hitler down, Hitler lets Hungary get a chunk out of Romania, lets Soviet Union get a chunk out of Romania, and lets Bulgaria get a chunk of these sort of little three provinces out of Romania. And then Romania, realizing that if it doesn't join the Hitler alliance, it will continue to be carved up. But so we see Britain and France turning down a Romanian alliance, and at that time it was mainly an alliance against the Soviet Union, because in 1936 Germany is still, way back over here. It was an anti-Soviet alliance. But so he sees this. Hitler's aware of these things. We'll get to there. I don't know, the Soviets weren't a factor. How long would the Poles have? If Poland truly believed that it didn't need to keep any military forces in the East, I don't think it would have been much harder. It might have been a few more days of sieges of some of these cities, but I don't think the Poles would have been able to hold the open ground. It would be things like, I'm presuming right now, Kharkov, there's Polish forces sitting there besieged. It'd be a few more days of that. Essentially, he punished Romania, while United Romania may have been a good potential ally for Germany, better Romania subject state than, Romania is forced, because it's a choice of which bad options at that point. Romania wants to see itself as a westernized, Latinized nation, and wants to look to France as its Western equivalent. But France knows it's not going to go to war, because again, it's at the time it's really more an anti-Soviet alliance. Go to war with the Soviet Union over Romania, because France is just emotionally wrecked, and more because of World War I. So Hitler, discounts he believes it's unlikely to very unlikely that the Western Allies will get into a war over Poland. Is his assessment. Obviously, he's wrong, but he was going to go for a war anyways with the West. That was the plan. Okay. And then eventually, gobble up territory out here. Hitler believes that there is going to be an eventual war with the Soviet Union, not Nazis versus Soviets. I think he believes in an aggressive Soviet Union. Obviously, they were. And they were also aggressive, in Spain. They were aggressive against basically every communist party everywhere except for China around the world is Soviet controlled. And they do so often by assassination of anybody in a communist party somewhere, even a communist party in exile. if you're not towing the Stalinistic line, whatever that line is of the day, because you will see the Communist Party is allowed to exist in France after the fall of France, and the Communist Party in France supports not so much the invasion or occupation of France, but supports the German-Soviet alliance up until the day Hitler invades the Soviet Union, and then and only then is the Communist Party in France actively repressed by the Germans, and it actively becomes a collaboration element of the anti-collaboration element, rejoins the anti-collaborationist elements in France, the Free French or whatever. So they are actively giving out rhetoric in favor of the Nazis because they're Stalinistic controlled everywhere, except the only one party is Chairman Mao's party in China, and that is one of the main reasons, not the only reason, one of the main reasons Stalin supports Chiang Kai-shek and not the communists in China, because he doesn't control them. So Hitler sees the Soviet Union as aggressive, but so who would have started the war? Well, obviously Hitler ends up starting the war, but let's just say that there was, Hitler defeats France and gets a ceasefire with the United Kingdom and everything's peaceful for 5 years, and then Hitler gets ready to go into the Soviet Union or something. Who would have started it first? We could argue it. There's good points on either side of the argument. That's not the point here. But Hitler was going to attempt to achieve his goals. I'm just going to catch up with extremely necessary Hitler. Well, plausible. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hitler was worried about. That's why Hitler tried to get an alliance with Romania again looking at it as an anti-Soviet alliance, because Hitler wanted access to that oil. That was sort of the requirement. Hitler would sell them arms. The arms would be paid for in oil, basically. We give you, sort of in this game, we give you supplies, you give us oil. That's what supplies would be arms. We'll protect you from the Soviet Unions. We'll protect you from the Hungarians and whoever else. But Romania turns it down. Romania becomes more and more of a puppet. Never a total puppet, but more and more of a puppet. I mean, where Slovakia is basically a total puppet of Germany, Hungary and Romania aren't total puppets, but they're somewhat of a puppet of Germany. Cited tanks out in Leningrad. Thank you, Arno. The Maquis. Yeah, the Maquis. Hello, Plastic Gangsta. And other elements. Yeah, the Free French are developing over time. And there's not entirely. It's funny because the French communists were some of the strongest anti-war. Oh, you see, they were anti-war because they were friendly with the Soviet Union and they didn't want it. They followed whatever the party line was that Stalin gave out. The organization did. Now, I don't know what the individual communist member thought. I'm talking about the party printed newspapers or magazines or public statements or whatever. The party is what I'm talking about here. They are loose. I mean, they're not like, yay, it was more like, yay, we defeated the reactionary forces in France and now we can build a more just socialist France with the alliance between National Socialist Germany and the Socialist Soviet Union together and blah, 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 kind of stuff as far as I know. Again, I don't read French. I'm just interpreting sort of what I read and what other people have written about it. Okay. So Hitler's appetites. It wasn't, in my opinion, Hitler does not want to rule the world. He does not want to rule the world. He wants a segregated super German nation, a super nation of Germany. Some Nazis, like Himmler, want to rule over subject peoples. I think Hitler really wants to eliminate, I mean, they could be buffer states and things like that, but keep the Germans living amongst Germans. Hitler, being an Austrian, And growing up in Austria-Hungary, and Austria, and particularly Vienna, is a cosmopolitan city of many different peoples of different cultures, and he hated that. Even if it was clearly seen that the Germans in the Austrian part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire were the ruling elites, if you will, were the dominant culture, he did not want it to be intermixed with the Italians and the Hungarians and the Yugoslavians and the this and the other and the other and the other. No, he wants it to be German. And it was going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and grow to the east. He wanted the idea of the Anglo-Saxons, as he saw them, the English, to rule, and France, but he liked the English the better, to rule the sort of nasty colonial parts of the world. And the polyglot, multicultural America, it's corrupt anyways, and it can just stay over there. He did not really want to rule the world. Now, he wanted to be the superpower of the world, but he did not want to, I thought Maquis was the term for all resistant elements, even though that did not like each other. The Maquis, I don't know exactly when that term comes about. You see early on in some like horse races, I remember a picture of like some of the horse riders, when they still were allowing horse races in France. Some of the jockeys had like crosses of Lorraine on their backs openly, and the Germans are in the audience watching. The Germans hadn't quite yet caught on to the idea that the cross of Lorraine was becoming the sign of resistance in France. It's a coalescing thing. I don't know when, yes, by the time you get to D-Day, it's sort of the Maquis, or the French Army of the Interior, I believe is the English term for it. FFI or something in France, or the French Forces of the Interior, or whatever it's called. And those were sort of, the guerrilla forces. And as the Allies are moving either, out of D-Day or coming out of the southern landings, the Anvil landings in the south, they're forming various scouting units and supporting combat units, being given mostly American arms by that time, handed out there, and fighting alongside the Allies, mostly as like skirmish type elements, not as main assault units. He wants to expand Germany to include all ethnic Germans, at least in Europe. He isn't trying to really, in my opinion, trying to get the ethnic Germans in like America or Argentina. So it's it's at least all the ethnic Germans in Europe. Yes, collect them into one country. Pretty sure that if Italy had discovered now in Europe, the people would be speaking German and Italian. It definitely would have changed things. And that's a long topic. And when did they discover it? If they discovered it in 1936, you're more right. If they discovered it in 1940 or 41, it probably would have been too late to exploit it effectively. So when did they discover it? How did they get it going and whatnot? It definitely would. You offered Churchill a free hand. Yeah. That's if you just leave the Germans alone. Yes, plastic gangsters. That's sort of what I'm saying. Germany wanted a big super state moving east. Okay. Now, there's another war in Ukraine again. History is not over. And there's actually, books, History is Over, written, in 1990, in those sort of early days, and that the Soviet Union's gone, history's over, we're just going to settle borders, and people are just going to peacefully live out. There really, quite honestly, has not been, much fighting between Belgium and France recently, or even between England and France. Some football games get out of hand or whatever, but they're, France gets to send invasion forces into England, and England goes, whatever, mass migration of peoples. But there's no real fighting in Europe. But people really truly believed that history was over. Oh, sure, there's going to be, some African thingy that's going to, massacre some people. But history's over. Latin America, if you've noticed, I guess almost since the last Ecuadorian-Peruvian war, more or less is at peace with each other, and it was only the Soviet Union pushing in and causing revolutions that was fractionalizing Latin America. So history was mostly over. Well, that's not the case, obviously. History continues. Countries will fall, countries will form. Someday the U.S. will break apart. I don't know whether it's going to be in the next 2 or 3 years or the next 200 years. I don't know, but some point the U.S. will break apart because empires, and the U.S. is a cohesive empire, and I'm not talking about overseas possessions. I'm talking about the 50 states. It'll break apart at some point. It's an empire. Yeah, they just do. But we're seeing the Putin invasion of Ukraine. I mean, we've been seeing it. And to give the background, I know this is going to be sort of long, and got some time left here. I know this is going long episode, so I hope it's interesting. This is an analysis, and I'm doing this analysis as I'm talking. We see Putin consolidating power in Russia. He's term limited to 2 terms. He gets Medvedev, I'm butchering it a bit, in as sort of his puppet president for a term, and then he gets the laws changed and whatnot. So he's gets back into power, and basically, even though they hold elections, he's functionally has secured the reins of power and is president for life in Russia. I think that is the current. Believe me when I'm saying what the frogs will get. They have a few options at the moment, but France's recent behavior in a fury, and we've been licking our asses for millennia. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So, Putin, like I say, I think has secured power, and he's going to be president for life, functionally. I don't know what's going to happen after Putin. I don't know if there's a coherent party organization that would have whether if Putin just dies of a heart attack or whatever it is, I mean, I'm not even saying anything weird happened, just dies. I know he's in very relatively good health. I know people are saying, oh, he has cancer and all this stuff. I don't know, he may, but let's presume he's in relatively good health because he's done all those karate things and whatnot. But yeah, he could be sick. I don't know. That isn't the point. But someday Putin will be gone. I don't know what's going to happen after him. I'm sure how it happens, it will be will affect what happens after. Sure. Okay, but so Putin secures political power. Putin and other strategic thinkers in Russia believe Russia is very vulnerable. Okay. They are willing to have Russia and the near abroad. That's what they called it, in my understanding, whatever in Russia, however you say it in Russian, but the near abroad. They're willing to have it so long as these puppet states are puppet states. Like I would say, I don't think anybody would contradict me. Belarus is a puppet state of Russia. There's a few major Russian figures, but they don't like each other, and Putin main part. That's what I don't know I don't know enough about the Putin party. Whatever political party is it strong enough to get it, or would it fractionalize, or would other you have like resistance figureheads like Garry Kasparov, the chess guy, and a few other people. Now he may not be that prominent in Russia, just prominent here in the West. I don't know who and what does infighting mean? Does it mean civil war? Tanks fighting tanks? Or does that just mean, political squabbling? I don't know. I just don't know. But so like I say, they're willing to have puppet states around them, like I was saying, Belarus. And they're moving for a while, co-opting Ukraine as a puppet state. Well, and that program's going okay. They want to secure Georgia. They invade Georgia, cut Georgia literally in half. This little bit is sort of a breakaway state, sort of like the Sudetenland. And there's another little different breakaway state sort of back over in here somewhere in Georgia as well that's sort of Russian puppet breakaway claim states. They want to get all the rest of Georgia. They invade. George Bush the Younger goes, no, 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 sends U.S. naval forces out here. No, 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 no. And Putin retreats entirely. Now, he still holds, and they still to this day hold, some of the little puppet regions, but he retreats all of the gains that he tries to get against Georgia. This, of course, moves Georgia even more firmly into the Western orbit because it's getting zero support from, as time goes on, increasingly fundamentalistic Turkestan, that's moving more fundamentally to Islam, and Georgia does not want to be a Russian puppet, so it's becoming as much as it can, I don't know whether puppet's the right status, but being more and more in the Western camp. Control model is that the party does become coherent political forces, declares it. Okay, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Much like several major Nazi figures had connections. Yeah, there's a whole lot. Yeah, Finnegan, there's a whole lot to go in there. Azerbaijan, and can't remember. Well, there's Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh and others. Chechnya and other things that are going on down here in the Balkans. But Turkey is still technically a NATO member, but it is excluded from certain technologies, certain planning, and whatever. It is barely a NATO member. Do not count Turkey as a reliable NATO member anymore. And it is moving further and further away from that with Erdogan's policies. I think the only reason Turkey has not been actually kicked out of NATO is the sort of status of being a NATO member. Other NATO nations believe Turkey likes the status of being a NATO member and is using that to moderate Turkey's behavior. I don't know that it's moderating Turkey's behavior. Maybe it is. If they were to go, Turkey, tomorrow, you're out. I don't know that Turkey would be doing anything different than it's going to do anyways. I don't know. But so Putin backs down over Georgia under George Bush. And I know we've talked about this before, but we're analyzing. Now we'll get to the big point, and I'm just laying out my case here. Well, Putin likes to use two things. One, local ethnic Russian pockets, shall we say, and little green men, basically Russian soldiers not wearing Russian insignias, and if you go capture a bunch of them, they'll go, meh, they won't claim them as their own. They might quietly hey, we could trade you some of those people you captured with some of these other people we have over here, as trading material, but do so quietly, but never openly acknowledge that they were sent there by Russia. Russia has maintained along here, the sort of Transnistria, is it? Yeah. No, it's along this river, I think. Is it the Prunt or whatever? No, I think it's along this river here. Yeah. Odessa. Yeah, it's along this river, I believe, Transnistria. Sorry if I'm getting a little wrong. And other little enclaves around and has been infiltrating and causing problems. Well, under Obama, see, when Putin thinks America is weak, whether America is weak or not is not Nagorno-Karabakh and Azerbaijan were the breakaway elements of Georgia. Azerbaijan is different. Okay, plastic gangsta. I get mixed up some of the different words and pronounce them because the floodgates would open and Europe would be flooded. Well, not necessarily. I get the flood threat. The flood threat is just a German myth. Okay, it's just a Merkel myth. You just go, yeah, no. And it's like when Poland didn't allow in all those people that Belarus was trying to dump into Poland. Poland put up a fence and go, nope. Belarus sent them all back home. Turkey would just send them back home. It's just that the Western countries are allowing them to flood in because of German pressure to allow them to flood in. This is in my opinion. I'll take this as my opinion of what's going on, not that I have all knowledge in the world or anything. Okay, so when Putin thinks America's weak, Obama, he invades Crimea. He gets some sanctions. He's willing to go with that. None of the sanctions are designed to really hurt Russia, just to sort of like go, no, you didn't do, oh, well, whatever, kind of thing. And that happens. Well, I know a lot of Democrats, and they still go, Trump's Putin's puppet, Trump's Putin's puppet. Trump was the first American president to send actual arms to Ukraine. Trump, please understand, I mean, you don't have to like Trump, but Trump has two modes when you're dealing with people. He either loves you or hates you, okay? And they can flip in an instant, and they can go from loving you to hating you back to loving you in moments. And if he thinks he can get Putin to do something that he wants Putin to do, he'll tell him he loves Putin. I love you, Putin. Putin, you're great. You're Putin. And then people are going, what? He loves Putin. No, he's just saying to Putin he loves you. When he walks down the street and there's some guy who goes, hey, dude, I love you, Trump. And Trump goes, I love you, dude. No, Trump doesn't know who that guy is, doesn't care. Trump is just trying to get adulation. He doesn't actually love the person and want to have him move with him. He doesn't really want to go kissy face with some guy on the street because, the guy, and when Trump wants something like Russia to behave well, he tells Putin he loves him. If Putin doesn't do what Trump wants, he hates you. Okay, that's just he switched hate mode. He switched into hate mode with Elon Musk. I don't know quite. There's something going on between Trump and Elon Musk in the last few days or whatever. We would like very much to kick Turkey out, but believe me, Europe, we are still most concerned about immigration. It's you guys are letting these people in. And it's only now the British that are finally, I guess, starting to fly them back to Rwanda. So if you come from Afghanistan, they fly you to Rwanda and said, hey, you're now in Rwanda. I guess that's at least the plan. I don't know if the flights have started. It's just you're letting them settle in Europe. Now, I know your government just wants to do a manageable amount, but not a flood, but you're allowing it. You could stop it in a week, it'll all stop. As the boats come across this way here, you machine gun the boats, and they sink. And maybe some people die, but they sink, and the people swim back to Turkey. And it ends. I know it's cruel, but I'm for defending. I'm not for allowing people in if that's what it takes. Now, if you can do it more humanely, great. But if it more humanely don't work, you defend your borders. Just because they're coming in without guns doesn't mean you let them in. They're in an invasion. You do what you need to defend your property. If somebody's coming into my home, even if they're unarmed, if I feel threatened by them, I'm going to defend it. Okay? It's not just, well, hey, this guy, he climbed in through the window. Well, he doesn't have any weapons. Well, he's just going to sit over here on my couch. He's not going to harm anything. He's just going to sit on your couch and maybe sleep there tonight. No, that's not allowed. I'm not going to allow him to sleep on my couch just because he climbed in through the window. And if that requires force to keeping him out, yeah, it's being top-down imposed, yes, whether from Davos or whatever, but it's an imposed thing. So get back on the topic of Putin. So during Trump's time, there was only little marginal operations in the Donbass, sort of a consolidation. Maybe what did they shoot down an Indonesian airline aircraft that had a bunch of Dutch passengers on it, other things like that, but it was sort of mainly kept quiet. Well, once he perceived weakness, both in Ukraine, he was mistaken in Ukraine, and in the West, he's also mistaken there. Do not mistake a senile old man as being America is weak. Okay? He's just a senile old man. Hell, President Wilson for months, if not a year, couldn't speak, was just vegetating in his bed, and his wife would come in and while the guys were standing outside the door, and would have a conversation with her husband, and supposedly to make it legal, she would go over with the husband and put a pen in her husband's hand and move the hand to do the signature. You know, he didn't even didn't have his eyes open, wasn't even responding, but his heart was beating, and somebody was moving his hand, and that was governing America for a while. That's what we got. What is it? Whatever amendment that they were talking about, we're trying to remove, for incompetence under Trump now, whatever, that came up. The senators eventually realized what's going on, but it was getting to the point that his term was ending anyways, and it would have been more trouble to try to get rid of him than so they, the whatever amendment number to get rid of an incompetent president, they finally pushed through after Wilson's death, but is capable of it. So don't take just because Biden or whoever is incompetent is America is weak. But the moral of, so Putin's going to push until he can't push. Now, what are his goals and objectives? I do not believe they are beyond, not Warsaw Pact, but the Soviet Union's borders. I do not believe he is trying to go beyond the Soviet Union's borders. That is my estimation of the situation. Now, if I truly believed, and you got to remember there's nuclear weapons, so things have changed since 1939. But if I truly believed that Putin was going to try to conquer the world, or even conquer Berlin, or Paris, or whatever, then it may not be best for some nation like the U.S. or even Britain or France to enter the Ukrainian war, but to wholeheartedly support Ukraine in the war, which is what we're doing now, and then try to topple the current Russian regime. I think it's clear that we are back into a state of Cold War again. Okay? Now, Cold War isn't hot war. It isn't kinetic war. Our ships aren't shooting at Russian military ships. We're back to the way it was under the Soviet Union. That was a Cold War. We are now back to that state. Now, my fear is that our political leaders, not just in America, but in Europe, are going to become, what would be the term? Victory drunk. They will continue, hey, yeah, Ukraine's doing well, doing great, yeah, doing great. And let's keep funding them, let's keep funding them, let's keep funding them. And I think it's sort of kind of blocked by Rand Paul, but the $40 billion or $44 billion or whatever that the U.S. wants to give to Ukraine, I think it's sort of blocked right now. I don't know if it's going to go through. But I'm not sure on that because I know he was putting in an objection, and I'm not sure if it's going to go through or not. Maybe it's already has gone through. I don't know, but don't take it as a done deal yet, unless it has been, and I'm just out of date by a day or something or two. I follow these things, but not every moment of every day. I don't know that Ukraine has the capacity to retake Crimea. I don't know how far Ukraine can push Russia into Russian territory, I should say. I don't know. And I'm worried that our leaders will see success and want to reinforce the success instead of saying, oh, hey, yeah, stop, to Zelensky. Stop pushing. Sign a ceasefire. I'm not saying at the border it is as it is today, but because right now, and Herr Thomas is sometimes here, and he's becoming a friend, and he is a Ukrainian living in Ukraine, and he's told me the official policy, which is basically getting back all of the territory, including Crimea, including the Donbass, and they won't go for peace until all that's back. Well, I don't know that Ukraine, even with all the help that we're going to give it, is going to be capable of doing that. I don't know. Maybe Russia's going to collapse. Russian forces are going to collapse tomorrow, and they're going to start withdrawing from Crimea tomorrow. That bridge that they built. They'll start driving tanks back across it as fast as they can. That may happen. I don't know. I'm not saying I know going to be the outcome, but I don't know that they do have the ability to push into Crimea, let alone push enough to make the Russians give in. But even if you get a ceasefire tomorrow and an agreed upon border, realize we're not at war with North Korea because we never declared war with North Korea, but we don't have a peace settlement with North Korea. And it was with the UN, led by the Americans, of course, but it was the UN. And we have a ceasefire boundary between North and South Korea. And that's all it is. It is not that we recognize that is the legal border between North and South Korea, that we even necessarily recognize that there is a North and South Korea. It's just that is the ceasefire line. So it is the de facto border. It's the practical border, but it's not necessarily the acknowledged border. Something like that can be pushed to Zelensky to say, you sign. Not that you're signing an agreement that says that you agree that Crimea belongs to Russia. No, this is just the effective ceasefire border. Where we're gonna, if they don't cross this, you don't shoot at them. You don't go into their territory, so you're going to have guard towers, looking at each other, and have Ukrainian and Russian soldiers looking at each other, but nobody's shooting at each other because nobody's going across the border, kind of thing. A ceasefire border, a recognized ceasefire border. I don't know that the Ukrainian leadership, and let me quickly try to read, but again, the high moral standards we set ourselves are preventing us from doing what we want. We couldn't shoot illegals. Yeah, well... we are doing damage to ourselves We are doing damage to other countries by having the other countries say, oh, anybody who wants to leave El Salvador and come to America, they can come to America whenever they want to, and no serious repercussions to them. So that damages El Salvador. People die, literally, all the time. Maybe not every day, but people die all the time trying to get to America. They die on rafts from leaving Cuba. They die on overloaded boats leaving Haiti, that they believe that if that boat can sail up with way too many people on it, get to the coast and jump off and go, wet foot, I'm touching America, and get to stay, they get in boats and come to America. They walk right on top of freight cars, other kinds of things, to get to America. They somehow are in West Africa, get over to Latin America somehow. I don't know, are they in a boat or on a jet airplane? Probably a jet airplane. Get over here and then come to America, but they suffer for it. A few minor deaths, short term, would tell everybody, we're closed, don't start coming, you'll be safer. That's what needs to happen. Just remember my childhood when NATO soldiers were danger to conquer my country, and the country would become a war zone where Russia artillery would hit our houses when we would try to expose NATO soldiers and protect our sovereignty. Thus, I know since my childhood how to prevent accidental hit by Russian or incendiary to burn my house. Okay. But what about trying to take back regions lost? Well, that's what I'm saying is their goal is to take back regions lost 2014 or any other time. Did you hear about the Ukrainian troops that crossed and are pushing? I know there's been cross-border raids, supposedly, in Ukraine. I don't know if there's troops taking territory. I haven't heard specifically that. Like, I have heard that there's supposedly, got some guys where they're hiking or driving across the border, attacking something, and then, fading back out of the way. All the deaths and suffering are blamed on Trump and the Republicans. Somebody's got to get the blame, but we got to get the suffering stopped. It's hurting America. It's killing Americans. It's killing these people from other parts of the world. They're coming in. They're being sometimes literal slaves. Sometimes just sort of not slaves, but controlled labor. Hostages that the gangs will take and demand the families give them money. All kinds of bad things are happening to these people in America, not just on the way to there. Bad things are happening to this subclass of America. And if you legalize them all, which is what the Democrats want to do, well, then you'll just encourage more to come, because if you make it through the lottery and survive long enough, well, the Democrats will just legalize you again. So the Democrats' plan is never to solve it. It's just to manage the crisis and keep the crisis going. I want to solve the crisis. And you know what? If we could just put a big, huge wall up and just keep the people out, that'd be fine. But if you just do whatever it takes and stop it. Ukraine is trying hard to milk money. Yes, yes, they are trying to. Indentured servitude, yeah, that would be for some of them. Is that? And those are also from places like Asia as well, Finnegan. They're bringing in people. And the quote-unquote cost to bring them in, they have to pay back in labor of one form or another. So yeah, there's various things that since we allow this to happen, and the U.S. is allowing it to happen, and the Democrats, the Republicans have been complicit, because a lot of Republican business types want the cheap labor. They want the Mexican gardeners that are cheaper than an American gardener. Okay, that's a big thing. They want the cheap Hispanic, because they're not all Mexican, Hispanic nannies for their children. They want that, whether they're Democrat or Republican. They want that. They don't want to have to pay for what would be a more expensive American nanny for the children. So I see them walk around my neighborhood, and it's obvious that the child in the stroller is not the child of the woman pushing it. Partially just various things, age and other things, because nannies aren't necessarily young. So whoever this caretaker of this child, they don't belong together. And you can look at the clothes of the woman and look at the expense of the stroller and know that that woman didn't buy the stroller. So she's employed by someone in the neighborhood or nearby the neighborhood to look after the child. And you hear her talking on a cell phone, walking and pushing this child and speaking in Spanish on the cell phone. So I don't believe the person is here legally, or at least didn't come here initially legally. I'm sure I'm wrong on a few cases, but more than likely I'm correct on most of them. And this has nothing to do with race. It just has to do with not Americans flooding in. If you wanted an affordable solution and ignored the human cost, etc., in order to get the job done, use of landmines. No, you could build show us your U.S. Army. Yeah, I know I've been talking a lot. It's pathetically weak right now. It just is. So there's nothing really much to show right here. You verify and don't need. Yeah, I mean, but that doesn't help cash payments on people and whatnot. So yeah, it's to punish large corporations. Trust me, I've worked for large corporations that I know that they're hiring illegal aliens. Sometimes, specifically, they contract out to a second company to provide the labor. So the big corporation knows that the person who's working there can barely speak English. And instead of employing them directly, they contract with a third-party company to send the workers in. So they're not breaking the law. It's this other company that may disappear in, overnight if the feds or whoever comes knocking on their door, they disappear and open up a similar company under a similar name a few weeks later and supply them. I'm talking major corporations, nationwide major corporations that I've worked with and know that this to be the case, not suspect. No, because I've talked to some of these workers, the ones that spoke a little better English, because I don't speak Spanish well enough to get at all this stuff. Okay, so my point is, and I know I've gone long on this, we know Putin's objective, at least I believe we know Putin's objective, is to restore the previous Soviet borders. I think we've now achieved the goal of stopping Putin's aggression. I know he's still trying, but I think we've got to the point that the Russian military is figuring out they can't win against Ukraine as it stands now. What we need to try to do is, instead of trying to dump more and more money into Ukraine, is try to find a way for a ceasefire. And it can just be a ceasefire as opposed to treaties that change borders, acknowledge borders. All the maps can still be drawn showing what is Ukraine, and then go, oh, but this part is occupied by Russia. Russian occupied Ukrainian territory kind of thing. And solve it. Ukraine was not trying to aggressively move against Russia. They were definitely trying to not be part of the near abroad. The people, they decided they did not want to be, and for various reasons, I think including the Holodomor, not to be a Russian satellite or Russian puppet, wanted to be more attached to the West, but Crimea was, and I believe still is, a very corrupt place. So is Russia. And so Ukraine did not, in my opinion, bring this on. They were not being aggressive against Russia in throwing out a pro-Russian leader, I forget his name, they decided that he was a quisling, if you will, a foreign sympathizer, and wanted him removed. And that displeased Russia, but Russia lost the soft power war, if you will. The non-kinetic, the non-violent, the non-hot war, however you want to say it. They lost that, and he decided he could go in, and it's failed. And now we need to find a path out. And I don't hear any of this from any of the elected leaders, from any of the civil, bureaucratic type leaders in any of these countries, any of the military leaders in current office. I don't hear any of that from any of these governments. Now maybe they're saying it and they're just not making it to me on the whatever news that I watch, and I'm just not hearing it. But I'm not hearing any of them going, hey, yeah, we defended Ukraine. Now we need to try to negotiate with Russia to get us. No, they seem to be. Now, yeah, I know there's been a few that have, Turkey has tried to negotiate early on, and there's a little bit of this going on, but none of these NATO nations, to my knowledge, and I'm not counting Turkey as NATO here. Okay, multiculturalism has failed. Yes, multiculturalism doesn't work. So far, the attack on Ukraine is basically defense of the after Minsk protocols failed. So irrigation channel, Crimea, possibly land bridge, solve the Crimean line. Yeah, I don't know about getting into Crimea. I think the war will last at least a year and a half more, in my opinion. Ceasefire talks just broke down completely last Monday, for example, and Putin still needs some kind of win. While the Ukraine wants old land, yes, that's very true. So there's an easy way for Yanukovych. Yeah, that's probably the guy who was the Russian puppet, or wanted to be. I hope the war ends soon. I sunk 5,000 into a Russian fund. I don't think the Russians. I don't think Putin thinks. Please understand. I don't think Putin thinks. Now, what do I know about what Putin thinks? But still, I'm a guy living out in California. I'm not in the basement, but I'm just a guy living out in California. I don't think Putin thinks his presidency will survive what would seem to be a failure in this war. I don't think he thinks it will survive. I think he's rolled the dice, and it's sort of win or lose, and he needs something that he can call a win. My understanding is more or less he controls south of the Dnieper here. He doesn't have Kharkov. He's around Kharkov, so it's sort of like this. I don't think Zelensky is willing to, at least he stated that they're not. I mean, who knows what they say in private, sign a ceasefire agreement along these lines. I don't want that to be the case, but we finally, last 2 or 3 days or whatever, seen the final surrenders of people in Mariupol. I don't know that these people that are surrendered are going to be treated particularly harshly. They might be all executed. I'm not saying they won't be. I think they're being held as, shall we say, negotiating hostages. We'll give you these people back if you, give up territory, kind of thing. I think that's it. I think the limited multiculturalism can work, but many cultures, groups, etc., together cause too many tensions and problems between said groups, which makes things. Well, Finnegan, I know you at least were born and grew up sometime here in Southern California, where I am. I know you've moved north. So you've experienced multiculturalism, and it's failing here. Limited amounts, fine, but you need to have a dominant culture in a region. That doesn't mean it needs to crush the other cultures, but you need a dominant culture. And we still sort of have the Anglo culture in Southern California as the dominant culture, but it is eroding. And even it is people, they call whiteness. And what the fuck is whiteness? Because it isn't just being white as in racially, it's whiteness. And when I go, being on time is whiteness. Math is whiteness. They want to erode and destroy the dominant Anglo culture here. To what end? I think it varies from person to person. Some groups want to just promote their group up, but I don't know. And so, Nazis from Azov. Yeah, I don't know how many are Nazis that were in the Mariupol group. I know there were Nazis there. I'm not saying there weren't. I just don't know, how many were Nazis and how many were just Ukrainian nationalists, And, are there really any Nazis? But I don't know if they were National Socialists. And they certainly did. They didn't seem like they wanted to shoot themselves in the head, because that's sort of what the Nazis wanted to do to the Ukrainians. If they were good Nazis, they would go, hey, dudes, we're all Ukrainians here, Nazis want to exterminate Ukrainians, so why don't we just shoot ourselves in the head and we'll achieve our Nazi goals? That's sort of what Hitler wanted to happen with the Ukrainians. So I know they call themselves Nazis. I know they run around with a bunch of Nazi symbols. The head of the Russian mercenary agency, I'm blanking on the name of it and his name. He's another big Nazi. The guy that supplies all the Russian mercenaries has a bunch of Nazi tattoos all over himself. But he's a Russian. They were the subhumans that the Nazis wanted to eliminate. I don't get the pathology there. Why they're embracing Nazism when they're the people that the Nazis wanted to, kill. I just don't get that. I get the idea. Here I will say this. I get the idea that the Russians or the communists, sometimes that's the same thing, sometimes it's not, have called the enemy the Nazis. And these people are the enemies of the Russians or the enemies of the communists. So they've just adopted that. Your enemy is the Nazis. Okay, I guess I'm your enemy, so I'm going to be a Nazi. I guess. And they sort of see them as kick-ass super soldiers and think they want to be that, as sort of, Nazi fanboys or whatever you want to call it in the modern sense. How do you think you can negotiate a land brief at Minsk or anywhere else? People will fail to realize this is just enlargement of the war has been big. Yeah, extreme right-wing nationalist. Yes, I get you there. Hey, Beam Slam. And yeah, that's sort of it, I think, on both sides, but it's really weird. But then there was also there were two Russian Nazi movements outside of Europe during World War II. Haven't made any events about them. One was in Manchuria, Russian exiles. They used swastikas. They even, I think at one point, did some big big swastika display along the border so that the Russian border guards could see it, but, there was peace between the Russians and the Japanese at the time. And then there was an American, and this was a fairly large group of Nazis, Russian Nazis. They used swastikas and they used the term National Socialist instead of fascist, but probably fascism would be more correct, probably as an ideology. But I'd have to dig deeper into it. And then there was, I think it was somewhere around here. In the U.S., but I think it was at least West Coast based, but maybe it's East Coast. Maybe I got that entirely wrong. There was a very small, I mean, like in the hundreds or less, not in the thousands, but in the hundreds or less, Russian exiles or children, of those exiles. So the children may have been born in America, that were Russian Nazis. That was a party that was, trying to, support the overthrow of the communists, and instead of being czarist and want to return to, Russian Orthodox culture, ancient Russia, czars, and all of that stuff, they wanted to be sort of modern totalitarian, anti-communist type, but had a lot of semi-socialist type rhetoric in their stuff, because they published particularly in English as well, because I think some of their members didn't really speak much Russian because they were educated in American schools and just probably spoke a bit of Russian here and there. So yeah, no, the West was Nazi. Yeah, or Nazis about. Actually, I look at the original materials from the Russian era. After people continue blabbering about Crimea, I found administrative strategy for Crimea was illegal because it violated the Constitution. It needed Crimean referendum. The didn't have a quorum. The Crimea was trying for decades to abolish this decision. Thus, don't see any legal reason for Crimea belonging to Ukraine during the Soviet era. What the fuck does legal have to do with any goddamn thing? Ragar. I mean, you're going, this referendum, blah, blah, this. What does that matter? What the hell does it matter? What legality created Czechoslovakia after World War I or after World War II? What legality did any of that? What legality created Austria after World War I or after World War II? No, it was incoming conquerors saying, after World War I, saying, no, okay, you're giving up all this territory. Austria, you get to exist. Oh, but we wanted to be Austria-Germany, Austria-Deutschland part and reunify. Nope, you can't reunify with Germany. It was just the politicians in charge sort of thought they'd do that. And no, you can't have any of this other territory, even this other territory that might be, all or mostly German-speaking peoples. No, this is going to be your borders. No, what legality does any of this have? It's the might of the conqueror. Okay, people, it's the might of the conqueror. Why the hell does Belgium exist? Can anybody tell me why Belgium exists as a country? Not why the people are there, but why there's a country called Belgium. Why does it exist? Can anybody say why Belgium exists? Exactly. Yeah. I guess Foucault. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not good at pronouncing. Exactly. Britain wanted it. Why did Britain want it? Well, it was the end of the Napoleonic Wars. Germany was still, was being reordered. There was still Austria, there was still Prussia, Bavaria, Hanover. There was big France. Up until the French Revolution, Belgium had been first sort of the Spanish Netherlands, and then sort of the Austrian because of the Habsburgs, kind of thing. And then the Habsburgs lost Spain, but stayed on in Austria, and Belgium was Habsburg territory, so it becomes the Austrian Netherlands for a long time. And then the French Revolution marches in, and I think during the sort of French Revolution, Napoleonic era, Belgium is just merged into France. They set up a puppet state. I think, you correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the Netherlands to the north are created as a puppet state, with because there's anti-Orangist, the sort of Dutch monarchy thought in there. So there is legit collaborators, and there's also legit anti-revolutionary Dutch that sort of divides the Netherlands a bit. But the Netherlands are mostly on board with the French Revolution and being a French puppet, mostly. Now, after Napoleon becomes a bit too imperial, they start balking at some of this. And so you're breaking up Britain's trying to reorganize Europe into something that is not going to have big powers to frighten Britain. So France is still going to be France, but most of the other places get to be sort of broken up. Spain is weak and crumbling, so it gets to stay intact. And so Britain creates Belgium. Literally, and they literally get they literally appoint the king and all that kind of stuff. So Belgium exists only because a great power says it does, and that is how most of these little countries exist. Most. We can talk about individual cases, but most countries exist because great powers say they do. And that's just the moral of the story. It's great powers draw the maps, people. Great powers. And if you're not one of them, you got these people here, Kurds, sitting in northern Iraq that are functionally governing themselves. They don't get a country because no great power says they get the country. You got literally a country basically with this border right here called Somaliland. They actually have, I don't think they print it themselves, because you can contract, because I remember like Sierra Leone, some other African nations contracted with a British printer to print their money. They don't print it their own money. Got a story about that, but I won't go into it now. So I don't know that, but they have their own currency in Somaliland. They call it Somaliland, not Somalia. It's basically the borders of the old British colony. And it is not a failed state in that they control themselves, and most people could walk down, Westerners or whoever could walk down the street and not fear violence. I'm not saying somebody wouldn't try to pickpocket you or something, or wouldn't, if you had, carrying something valuable in your hand, somebody wouldn't necessarily come up and try to snatch it. I'm not saying crime is zero, but compared to the Al-Shabaab and other terrorists going on in failed state Somalia down here in Mogadishu, this is a rather peaceful, tranquil thing. And the closest thing to diplomatic acknowledgement they have is sort of from Saudi Arabia, which is sort of kind of doing it, but they don't even officially recognize it. So nobody recognizes, no government out there recognizes Somaliland, but it is a functioning government. It's a legal function. It's a government that, has elections and does things, and look it up. It's not Puntland, which is another area out here that is sort of kind of declaring itself, but it's the pirate state. Puntland is where all the pirates come from, not Somaliland, as far as I know. Somaliland, no. They wouldn't let that happen because they're a good, well-ordered country. Little countries only exist because great powers say you do. So morality or legality, that doesn't effing matter one little bit. If great powers don't say you exist, you're not a country. It was only because a lot of the U.S., but also if you, somewhat guilt feeling, somewhat other sort of feeling European powers that decided to vote to acknowledge in the UN the state of Israel, that the Israel gets to exist. But obviously it was already a fact on the ground with its army before that recognition of Israel. So it's you only exist because of great powers exists. Your borders are either one of two things. One, something you can physically control, or two, great powers say these are your borders. So Somaliland can physically control its borders. Now, no one is, no U.S. power is, or Britain or whoever is trying to invade them, but they have enough military might to keep the terrorists out. They are, I believe, an Islamic-based culture, but they don't have Islamic terrorism in there. Like I say, I believe Western people can, with relative safety, walk down the streets. There won't be, no one will do a terrorist attack against you. There aren't bullets flying back and forth that you have to dodge and weave from. It's a relatively peaceful place. I'm not saying crime-free. I'm just saying relatively peaceful. And they control it. It is not a failed state. Somalia is a failed state, but Somaliland is not. So now, do they control out in this desert? Because this does get very deserty. I doubt it. Just where the border would be drawn, in actual control. But you either control it by violence, by physical force, or great powers draw your borders for you. So don't give me any of this, oh, Lenin gave this to whoever and then they settled on. No, look, Ukraine was formed in the breaking up of the Soviet Union. We in the West acknowledge those borders. We, power in the West, and I'm not just talking America, but I'm talking Western powers, have not acknowledged the change of legitimate ownership of Crimea. We'll acknowledge that, yeah, the Russians are there, obviously. We don't discount reality. We're not all social justice warriors. Just some of us are. But we will acknowledge the reality of Russia being there, but we don't acknowledge its de jure control. Ukraine is older than Russia. Moscow is just a remote Rosama. Yeah, that's a whole argument. I'm not going to get into who ancient times this, ancient times that. If we're going to do ancient times this, ancient times that, well, the English can fuck off and get out of Britain, and the Franks can fuck off and get out of Gaul, and we Celts will come back in, and the Bretons out here, and just fuck off Franks and fuck off English. Well, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. So, the Celtic fringe is the Celtic fringe. It isn't going to get back its homelands of Gaul and Britain and the Danube River Valley and other places. They're not going to get those places back. So yeah, you can talk to me about ancient, but Belgium really came out because there were Burgundy Burgundy. I don't think Burgundy had been a thing for 100 years. For 100 years when Belgium was created. I'm not saying that in this sort of mishmash of territories and where is the borders of France and where is the borders of the Palatine and all these different places that come and go. Literally, city states and regions and whatnot, and what the Habsburgs acquired isn't sort of geographically aligned on some Burgundian territory. Yeah, okay, but it hadn't been a thing for 100 years, I do believe, because in the 18th century, So I don't even think Burgundy was a thing in the 17th century, but I could be wrong about that. Now, the 15th century, okay, but, you know, I'll go back. Belgium was first called Flanders, but it was the same thing. Well, Flanders is not all of Belgium, is my understanding, because the Flemish and yeah, but you know, it's well, this is Brittany and this is Normandy and this is Gascony and you know, and we could go on about regions and yeah, they're regions, but you know, these people out there spoke Breton, but the rest mostly spoke a version of French, and the southern half or third or whatever Belgium speaks French. Okay, well, we're going to end this episode here. I hope this sort of, hey, Zizi, showing up near the end here, but we're Flandering, not Belgium. Okay. Hope this has been an interesting comparison to Germany's aggression versus Russia's aggression. And its relevance. And I hope it's been interesting. Thanks, everyone. See you next time for even more, yes, more Hearts of Iron. Okay, I did save this, but I'm going to save this again just because I've been paused so long and sometimes that crashes things. Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, well, everybody here, what's going to happen? Well, in 15 minutes, my alarm's going to go off anyways and making a large noise. In approximately 45 minutes from now, over on Slitherine TV, hold up, everybody, don't go away just yet. On Slitherine TV, I will be streaming live Distant Worlds 2. That is a 4X space exploration conquest type game. I am not particularly good at it. I played it just barely anything. But we're going to be talking about, and I'll give you guys here, since you're here early, if you want to come over there. You can also earn Slith points to get free games and DLCs over there. We can get more how to get free Slitherine and Matrix games over there. You can earn those. Some of you know, obviously some of you are hang out there like Beam Slam a lot, but I'll be over there. And hints are Center and Bellevue, if you know what those are. And we're going to be talking about civilization and other very weighty issues while playing the 4X game. And if you guys are, if you guys know Distant Worlds 2, I'd love to have you over there as help tutor me in the game mechanics. I played just a little bit, but so yeah, well, come over and come and watch and hang out and talk. Again, I'm going to let my voice rest for 45 minutes and get a snack and set up to be streaming just on Twitch instead of onto the multiple services, but it'll just be over on Twitch on Slytherine's channel. But I've got sort of an angle that I'm sort of role playing and / talking with you about it, not just playing the game. And it will relate to humanity and issues that I see. So hopefully you'll join me over there shortly. Like I say, in approximately 45 minutes, I'll be live over there. So hopefully you guys will show up there. You didn't say hi, at least. And hopefully Arno and I will be playing War Thunder tomorrow, probably. Yeah, maybe War Thunder. I don't know. We'll see. Tomorrow. War Thunder. Yeah, Arno, nobody wants to watch Infantry Thunder. Sorry. People wanted to watch it. They're not even watching War Thunder. I wish I've got to find something people want to watch more. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So thanks, everyone. Hopefully see you shortly.